This episode of Osprey 101 is sponsored by Housing and Residence Life.
Hello, my name is Faith. I'm an RA here over in Osprey Landing, Building X, and I just wanted to show you around my room real quick today. So one of the cool things about being an RA is actually you get to live alone. So this room is a little bit set up differently than what it would be like if you were a student here living with other roommates. So when you first walk in over here, these are considered closets. A lot of residents like to put up curtains to kind of hide what they have behind them. But I use them for storage since I don't need 3 closets as a resident assistant and living alone. And then over here we have my bathroom. Kind of has a little bit of a jungle theme going through it. And I really like a lot of greenery in my space. And then moving right along, as I said before, this is another closet that I use for storage. And then right here I have my closet that I actually use for my clothing and other things like extra blankets, towels. And then moving right along from that, I just want to talk about my little kitchen area. So one thing I do recommend that students have is like an over the toilet shelf. I used it for my fridge and I'm able to store stuff up higher than having a lot of stuff on the ground. It's a really great place to put all of my like cups and other things that I might need for cooking. And as well as underneath the kitchenette, you do get a kitchen sink, and I highly recommend having a kettle because sometimes you just want ramen late at night and I like to do that, so it's really easy to boil water with. And then moving along as you follow in, this is more of like my living room space. So I do have 2 beds, and one bed is kind of just set as like a couch area. I let my friends sit in here, we hang out in here, and they use this as their couch. And then I also have my coffee table as well if I'm serving anything to them or if I'm eating by myself. And then I have my TV stand. I also recommend that people get these 6 cubes. Not only are they great for storing a TV on, but also if you want to put some extra stuff away, you can actually buy little cubbies to put those away as well. And then moving right along, this is kind of like my little bedroom area. So this is the bed that I currently sleep in at night. And then right next to that, I have a little nightstand that I brought with me to put my phone on as well as a lamp. And then I also have over here this desk I use for my schoolwork. So this is my school desk. And I do all of my RA crafts over here as well. That's why my Cricut machine is over here. I have my calendar with important dates and everything on it. And then I use this desk over here as my vanity space to get ready for in the morning. And yeah, another cool feature about my room is that I have a vinyl record player. So a lot of my friends like to come over and listen to music with me as we are just hanging out. And yeah, that's pretty much my whole space. So for laundry here at Landing, we have it located on the 1st floor. It's kind of like its own little laundry room where you can go in. A lot of students like to use the app Speed Queens to do laundry, where you can just upload money onto the app and then it'll hook it up to the right dryer or washer, and then you'll be able to pay that way. Or you can do the traditional way and just use quarters. Sometimes I do a little mixture of both, but that's how we're able to do our laundry here in Landing. And then for building Y, which is right next to X and W, we do have inside of their laundry room, they have an ice machine that you can use to be able to fill up your water bottles with ice. And then also here in Landing on the 2nd floor, we have our community kitchen. A lot of our residents like to use that for like cooking purposes if they want to make a big meal for their friends or just a small meal for themselves. There's 2 stoves in there currently. And then on the 3rd floor, we have the lounge. So students will use this to play like games in, or they'll just use it to do their homework or talk on the phone to try to get away from their roommates. Thank you so much for joining me.
The first thing that a student wants to do if they plan to live on campus for next year is to complete their academic year housing contract. What's really important that a student do during that process is look through it, because it's really like a lease agreement. So that contract's going to outline rules, regulations, financial obligations, and a little bit about what our processes are going to look like. So the biggest takeaway for any student, first year and upperclassmen, is make sure you're watching your UNF email. That's where we're going to send all the room selection information. The way we do room selection here at UNF is that you choose your specific room. Also included in all of those communications is going to be, how do I pick my roommate? How do I pull somebody in? How do I create roommate groups? And so you want to pay attention to that. And the last piece will be your time ticket. That's specifically when are you as a human going to go in and choose that room. And it may be different for you than it is for your preferred roommate or other friends. So make sure you're watching all of those emails. I think one of the first things you need to do is figure out what are your boundaries as a roommate. And for a lot of students, they may or may not have maybe lived with a sibling or with other people. So one of the first things I would suggest is even before you get to campus, think about what's going to be important in that relationship and what are your boundaries. So some of the things to think about are how clean or messy are you? What time of day do you like to go to sleep? What time of day do you like to get up? What level of noise do you have? In regards to rules and regulations, we have something called the Resident Handbook. So overall, for all UNF students, we have the Code of Student Conduct, and that's all university students have to follow those regulations. In addition, we have our Resident Handbook, and that is what guides the policies and procedures for students who live on campus. And so typically you're gonna see some things repeated from the Code of Conduct and then some things that are really specific to living in a residence hall with people. So a lot of our rules and regulations for things to bring are gonna be associated with fire safety. You're in a communal space, we wanna make sure that you're making choices and bringing things that make sense. So as an incoming first year student, some of the options for how you can get involved, like I mentioned, you've got the living learning communities, which is a chance to live together with people in the same major, the same interest area. Those applications, there is an application deadline and it's early June this year. So you want to make sure that you're applying by that deadline. But you can apply to up to 3, you can preference up to 3, and the faculty and staff review those. Those LLCs are going to have an earlier move-in experience. You get to come to campus 2 to 3 days before everybody else. There's a higher concentration of doubles, and part of what you can experience during that retreat will be things like going to Eco Adventure and kind of getting the inside scoop before other students on what campus is all about. You also can get involved in hall council or area council, which is kind of like a student council for the residence halls. And then as you're here on campus, if you become an upperclassman, eventually you can think about if you want to be an RA or an LCA, so resident assistant or learning community assistant.